loses his soul. So the soul of a person is very important. The spirit of a person is very important. The person or the personality of the person is very important as well. So when we look at that side of the human being, we must value and we must say that it is better to separate if nothing else works. If nothing else works, rather than living together and leading to a greater problem and being killed or killing himself or herself. So that is my initial opinion about this. Now I would like to share the time for others also to come up with their opinions.
Anybody else like to share?
Hello,
Yes,
it's
please.
Chinelo.
Yeah, just 1 or 2 minutes, please. 2 minutes. Yeah.
I just want to say that in a situation where a marriage has become toxic, it's always better there should be a separation. When the two couples have put in all efforts to see that things are set right. There is a particular example I have of a gospel musician. This lady sings so spiritually that she has been an impact to many Christians. But because of her faith, she believed that things will get better, despite the abuses she was getting from the husband, beatings and everything. So while she continued, she died in it. And you see, the ministry was cut short, and many people kept lamenting. But after all the judicial proceedings, the husband has been sentenced to death. But this is something that would have been saved if the woman took her stuff with the kids and got separated for a while. Maybe things would have been better later. Because when you think that you can mend it, but things are becoming so bad, life is usually at stake. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chinola. Anybody else? Well, I just want to make one comment. As Dr. Emma has said, the subject of safety is very, very important. And this week, we discussed about a lady. I know this person for maybe 20 years. And we talked maybe hundreds or even a few hundreds of hours. And I know the story, how the life was going around. And when the husband was dying of cancer in a faraway place, she wanted to go and see him, but he did not allow. At least she expected an apology. He did not do it. So all I can tell you is, keeping in mind our differences of opinion, viewpoints, biblical interpretation, our safety is important. Nobody should take divorce lightly. And at the same time, if the suffering is too much, we have every right to separate for our own safety. And anybody will agree with that one. So we will discuss about a similar situation next week about a man. and we will hope, and I hope we will have no technological problem in the coming 30 minutes. In continuing our class, How to be a Caring Person, I like to say a few things which came to my mind as I was preparing it. The incidence of mental illness is increasing. Some people say it was there before, but I believe it is increasing because of lot of psychosocial stressors of modern life, breakup of traditional families, lack of proper parenting, lack of social and spiritual values, and also availability of drugs and alcohol more nowadays. This is not only affecting the developed nation, all over the world, the same problem is happening. And at the same time, with all the knowledge increased, the ignorance, stigma, and lack of resources. I said these things many times before. Many places, many countries don't have even a clear plan how to handle this problem. And the church, as the called out people, believers group, are not taking that much initiative as it should be. As caring person, we can aim for the cure, but it may not happen. It can happen sometime. We can aim to relieve the pain. Can it happen? Yes. Can it happen every time? No. So we can only aim for it. But there is one thing we can do, everybody can do. As a caring person, we can be somebody who can give comfort to the suffering person. Why we have to do it? Because we have an example of a great physician, a great psychiatrist, a great counselor, a great psychologist whose name is Jesus Christ. In continuation of that, as caring people, we should keep in mind if mental illness happened because of biological reason, physical reason, some illness, it can be cured, maybe. But what happens is, even after the cure, even after they get better, the social stigma continues. I started my work helping the drug addict and alcoholics. And I helped many people. One of the biggest stumbling block for their recovery is when they get back to their home, their neighborhood, in their society, many people mock at them. For example, they will say, how did the injection work? With a double meaning. So the stigma is something, as caring person, we should be alert. Another example is God forgives, God heals the wounds. But unfortunately, the church, the society, neighbors, family members don't forgive or help them to grow in their Christian life. In many cases, exemptions are there. As a caring person, we should be aware that the subject of psychology, counseling, all this came maybe around 200, less than maybe 150 years old. But the Bible is written many hundreds of years back. And that is where, when people question us, is the mental health is mentioned there, all these things, we have to be aware of it. This subject is very new. Another problem the caring community faces is the doctrines and practices of the churches may go against this science, because for years they practiced certain things which cannot go away. Example is mental illness is considered as evil possession, which we already discussed in length. Can that teaching, understanding go away from our lives? May be very difficult, very hard. But as caring individuals, we all are, we should be aware of what is happening. And one more thing we need to keep in mind is we have a lot of caring programs. All the churches have programs of care, feeding the hungry, helping the ladies and men to get married, giving them financial assistance, building homes. We have a lot of caring ministries are there. But we need to go a step further to create a culture of care. In other words, the church, our life, should have a culture of care. Everything, we do it. And why we do it? For the glory of God, not for our sake. The mental health must be part of church ministry. So by saying that, we will go into our other subject. Why the next subject is important, compassion. The caring includes all issues, including old people, children, orphans, shut-in people, mentally ill people, rejected people. This morning I was discussing this issue with Dana, one of our participants, and we were saying even giving a piece of cake, because Dana is very good in making cake, giving a cake to somebody who cannot get out of the house is part of the caring ministry. Let us all look for people with questions and problems. Many of them are not speaking about that concern, or they are willing to share with us. I repeat, many people among us in our churches, in our neighborhood, in our community, they don't speak, they don't share their concern. It is our duty as a caring individual to look for them, look for signs, which we already discussed in the last meetings. As caring person, we must have an attitude of interceding for the community, not only for the church, the wider community, not only for their spiritual need, but for their overall healing and guidance in their life. I've already mentioned, but I like to emphasize this. While doing all this caring ministry, we should be acknowledging God's sovereignty and the power over our lives. We should never forget God's love, grace, and faithfulness, and that is why we are able to have this attitude of caring for other people. When we think of the subject compassion, in the Bible, Christians are called to be compassionate because it reflects God's own nature. It is demonstrated in the ministry of Jesus, and it is essential for effective leadership, discipleship, and Christian testimony. The compassion is defined as sympathy, empathy, mercy, and pity. These are all different languages which we use. One word may be better than the other one. It is not merely an emotion, but an active response to the suffering individual. Why we must be compassionate to people? Why it is crucial for us as Christians? I'll give you some points. Number one, it reflects God's character. It reflects God's character. The Bible consistently portrays God as compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in love. The Christians, as representatives of God on this earth, are called to show this attribute in our interactions with other people. Secondly, models Jesus' ministry. Ministry of Jesus was characterized by compassion, evident in his healing of the sick, feeding the hungry, welcoming the marginalized. Christians are called to follow Jesus' example by extending compassion to those in need, mirroring their action and teachings. Third, essential for leadership and discipleship. This is mainly good for the leaders, the clergy, the pastors, the elders, the leaders of the church community. Compassion is not just a personal virtue, but also a vital aspect of our leadership role. Christian testimony and discipleship. Effective ministry, if we are planning to do the ministry one way or other, requires understanding the struggles of other people, offering them support, guiding them towards spiritual growth. The compassion opens the door for discipleship by demonstrating God's love and creating opportunities for meaningful connection with our neighbors, with our community, with our fellow human beings. And this compassion also addresses the hypocrisy which many of us have. I may have mentioned, I don't know, few years back there was a research study done by a well-known research institute. I kept that cutting, the newspaper cutting for years. Now I lost it. About 65% of the people who don't go to church are hurt by the church because we lost compassion because of our hypocrisy. Our actions speak louder than words. We must act what we teach. Genuine compassion avoids this type of attitude of hypocrisy. Let's look into closely the life of Jesus, why we should be compassionate. Jesus demonstrated through numerous acts of service, healing, and forgiveness. Jesus has shown deep empathy for the suffering of other people. He acted immediately with kindness and love, healing the sick, feeding the hungry, comforting those who are mourning. He extended his caring attitude, compassionate heart to the marginalized, rejected people. He even challenged the social norms, demonstrating the love for all the people. That's why in the Gospel of John, chapter 3, verse 16, God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. So, as followers of Jesus, as caring people, we have to show that attitude also. If we go a little more details into all these things, healing the sick, Jesus healed people with various ailments, including leprosy, blindness, and people who are paralyzed, demonstrating his compassion for those who are suffering physically. So physical healing was included in his compassion. Those who are in the medical profession, many of the people who are in the class, who listen to the recordings, are in the medical profession. Yesterday we were attending a party and one doctor asked me for the recordings. It's a physician. Jesus was compassionate towards the physically ill people. He was compassionate towards the multitudes who are hungry, feeding the hungry. When faced with the large crowds of hungry people, Jesus miraculously multiplied food to feed them. The boy and some pieces of bread and the fish, showing his concern for the hungry people. He was weeping with the grieving people. We will be touching on the subject of grieving next month, August 3 and August 10. We may continue with another 1 or 2 weeks. In the story of Lazarus, Jesus wept with Mary and Martha when they mourned their brother's death, demonstrating his empathy for their sorrow. What does the Bible say? Weep with those who are weeping. Cry with the people who are crying. Rejoice with the people who are rejoicing. Even washing the disciples' feet was an act of compassion, care, humility, selfless service. Jesus washed the feet of his disciples, a task usually done by servants. But the master, the one who created everything, the Lord of the universe, was so caring and compassionate. He washed the feet of the disciples. Forgiving sinners. Jesus extended the forgiveness to those considered sinful by society, including tax collectors and prostitutes. You remember in the beginning I said he challenged the social norms. People were not associating with the tax collectors and the prostitutes, but he associated with them, demonstrating his love and acceptance for all people. Extending compassion to enemies. Jesus prayed for the forgiveness of all those who crucified him, showing love even for his enemies. What did he say? Jesus, he prayed, he said, Father, forgive them because they don't know what they are doing. Loving the marginalized, including the mentally ill people, including the people who are rejected by the community, society. Jesus interacted with this type of people. He had shown compassion to the outcast by society. When people questioned why he is going and eating with them, he did it. Lepers, tax collectors, and the poor people. These are just a few examples which we should be aware as people interested in caring for the people. So we are not doing something extraordinary. We are doing something which our master has taught us. Lastly, another 5-6 minutes. Jesus was moved with the compassion at least 9 times in the Gospels, 9 times. He moved with the compassion, Bible says. The sheep without a shepherd, he saw the people. He became emotional. Because of that, he often displayed acts of healing, feeding the hungry, and doing acts of mercy. I will simply say the Bible verses. We don't have time to read it. Matthew chapter 9, verse 36. Jesus saw the crowds and was moved with the compassion because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. The question which we have to ask us, do we move with the compassion when we see a mentally ill person, a divorced person, a separated person, a person who is struggling in the family because of family issues, mental issues, financial issues, so many job issues? Matthew chapter 14, verse 14. Jesus healed the sick among the multitude after being moved with compassion. Matthew chapter 15, verse 32. Jesus had compassion on the crowd who had been with him for 3 days without food, and in a miraculous way, he fed them. He asked the disciples, provide for them, because that was his heart of compassion. Matthew 20, 34. Jesus healed the blind man after being moved with compassion. 2 blind men. Luke chapter 7, verse 13. Jesus was moved with compassion when he saw the widow of Nain and raised her son from the dead. Let me spend 1 minute over this particular subject. I know many of you have heard, many of you may have preached on this subject. But let me tell you, when I read this portion, when I teach this portion, sometimes the tears come to my eyes. There were 2 crowds. One crowd is going to bury the dead. The hope of the lady. Now that hope is going to be buried. People were following her. She lost all the hope in her life. The last hope was a son. It's going to be buried. And here comes Jesus with another crowd following the master. If it is nowadays, you know what the masters, security guards, and people following you will say, get out of the way. Get out of the way. This is not a place you can carry a dead body. But look at Jesus. He acted with the compassion. He gave hope to this lady. Mark chapter 1, verse 41. Jesus healed a leper after being moved with compassion. Lepers were outcast. Nobody mingled with them. Nobody talked to them. They lived in a faraway place. But the master who created him healed him also. Last three verses. Matthew chapter 14, verse 14. Jesus was moved with compassion when he saw the crowd, and he healed their sick people. Luke chapter 10, verse 33. It is another example story which he used. He was teaching the crowd a story. Compassion towards the injured man. He was telling, you also have to do likewise. Lastly, Luke chapter 15, verse 20. The father in the parable of the prodigal son. I don't know why the word prodigal came, even I questioned that many times. The son who left the father came back, was showered with compassion. Jesus was showing his attitude. Just one more minute. Weeping of Jesus, the shortest words in the Bible. John chapter 11:35. Jesus wept. Gospel of John tells the story of Lazarus. People were mourning. Despite knowing he was about to raise Lazarus from the dead, Jesus was moved by their grief and wept with them. There's something for us to think as we go from here, the class. We people, many of us enjoy the suffering of other people, but Jesus joined us in our suffering. We ask so many questions, mainly sometimes to embarrass them. But Jesus won't embarrass us. We as human beings add insult to injury. But Jesus don't add insult to injury. We ask people to wait. But Jesus deals with the pain immediately. Is there any instance can you show where Jesus asked them to wait for him to act? No, Jesus did not. So as participants of this class, as caring individuals or trying to be caring, we have one question to answer. Are we compassionate towards our fellow human being? Thank you, everyone, for thank you, everyone for coming. Please stay for 1 or 2 minutes, and then we will go from the class. Really.